Question 18. Some processes in the body are listed. Which of the listed processes typically use energy from respiration? So the first process is the contraction of muscles. This indeed requires respiration, specifically aerobic respiration, where oxygen is present and breaks down glucose to give us energy. In the absence of oxygen, anaerobic respiration then occurs, which also requires the use of glucose to break down and give us energy. However, the energy payout will be lesser in anaerobic respiration than aerobic. Statement 2 states that uptake of glucose by cells in the villi requires energy from respiration. This is also true. We see villi in the small intestine lining the wall of the small intestine. And these cells will actively absorb glucose from the lumen of the small intestine into the villi or the epithelial cells of the small intestinal wall. The reason why active transport occurs is because majority of the time, the large amount of glucose that has already been absorbed by these cells will cause the glucose concentration in these cells to be very high. This will cause the concentration gradient of the glucose to be higher in the cell than outside of the cell. And without active transport, glucose is going to diffuse out of the cell and back into the intestinal lumen. In order to maximize the uptake of glucose by all these cells have to turn to active transport so that they can absorb as much glucose as they can. Therefore, option 2 is correct. 3 states that the movement of oxygen into red blood cells require energy from respiration. This is not true. Movement of oxygen into red blood cell is usually via diffusion and not active transport, because there is a concentration gradient where there is less oxygen in the red blood cell than in the alveoli. Therefore, naturally, oxygen will diffuse down the concentration into the red blood cell and active transport is not needed. Therefore, energy from respiration will not be needed. Statement 4 states that the movement of water into cells of the body requires energy from respiration. This is not true. The movement of water can only be conducted via the process of osmosis and not active transport. Therefore, the answer for this question will be A.